Evening exercise day 28. Spend time reading the introduction to week 5. In the coming week, you'll be guided to apply these principles to your relationship to money. This will be a big week for many people because it's imperative that you change your perception about your finances. When you raise your self-worth, you raise your net worth and therefore support the world around you. So we're going to read the introduction to week 5. Raise your self-worth, raise your net worth. If you dwell within abundance, you will have abundance. Marianne Williamson. Each of us has our own individual relationship to money. It starts at a young age. At that time, we pick up a financial blueprint that affects us in many unique ways. Some people have grown to believe in lack and therefore never feel they have enough. Others may have grown up to believe in abundance, and as a result, money flows to them freely. But regardless of our financial background, for many folks, fear shows up in some way when it comes to money. I grew up in an affluent town, but my family wasn't nearly as wealthy as those in the community, which made me feel like an outsider. Though my parents both worked hard, there was always a mentality of lack in my home. Money was a big and constant concern. As a young girl, I got hooked into my parents' lack mentality, and I still struggle with that mentality in some ways today. For instance, I carry their lack with me when it comes to spending money. When I buy something new, I often feel guilty because deep in the back of my mind lingers the old memories of not having enough. I also have a hard time receiving gifts because while I was growing up, I never wanted my parents to spend money that they didn't have. Both these issues are related to the financial story that I learned as a kid. Though remnants of my lack-minded upbringing persist, I am proud to say that I have essentially transformed my ego's financial fear, and today I'm abundantly minded. When I was 21, I made a commitment to myself that I would never fear not having enough money. I worked to disassociate with my financial fears and instead chose abundance. This decision to transcend my lack mentality has majorly boosted my relationship to money. Through my spiritual practice, I've come to understand that when you value money as an indicator of status and self-worth, that's a sure sign your ego has intervened. The ego uses money to seek fulfillment, much in the same way it uses relationships to seek fulfillment. The ego convinces you to believe that accumulating a certain amount of money can be your source of completion. Regardless of how much you have, this ego mentality supports an addictive, controlling relationship to money that will lead you to feel as though you never have enough. Each time your earning capacity hits a new level, you'll go right back to striving for more. This is a wicked cycle. Alternatively, when you value money as a source of creating, serving, and enjoying the gifts of life, you have a much different energetic connection to your finances. When I was 21, I was able to release my attachment to my family's lack, but I still closely associated money with my self-image. For instance, for years I equated my personal worth with my financial worth. This way of being was directly related to my ego's fear of financial insecurity, the fear that I'd picked up from my parents. In my case, the ego had convinced me that money equaled power and self-worth. As financial abundance came into my life, I experienced fleeting moments of excitement, followed by a sense that something was missing. Why didn't these financial milestones make me feel any different? Why, after earning more, did I still want even more? By the time I was 29, I experienced another quantum shift around money. As a self-reflective spirit junkie, I accepted the cold, hard truth. Money was not the key to self-worth and happiness. My spiritual awareness helped me recognize that money, much like drugs, alcohol, sex, romance, and food, can become addictive when used as a source of happiness. I came to understand that whenever we place our happiness and peace in anything outside of ourselves, we'll inevitably feel unfulfilled and stuck. Upon accepting this, I did what any miracle worker would do. I chose a new perspective. Through my spiritual practice, I created a belief system around the value of $1. This work greatly served my relationship to money, as well as my earning capacity. I shifted my focus from needing money for my self-worth to wanting money to support my great work. In addition, I let go of my fear of spending and accepted that a huge part of manifesting financial abundance was to enjoy the gifts life had to offer. Finally, I consciously began to give more by donating money to charities, charitable organisations and spiritual centres, and focusing on new ways to employ people in my business. This shift guided me to accept money as a resource to do creative, service-minded work and share more love with the world. This week's exercises offer you an opportunity to take inventory of how you value money and create a quantum shift of your own. I'll guide you to look closely at how your ego has placed wrong-minded values on your finances. As you pay attention to your ego, you'll uncover thoughts and patterns you never knew were there. How could you? The world has placed such a huge emphasis on our earning capacity that we're all bound to get caught up in the ego's grasp. Now is your time to get out. This week you'll move through the process of unlearning your ego's money fear. Get ready, because this work will be wildly transformational, and if you take it seriously, it will have a huge impact on your relationship to money and your bank account. Before we begin the week's work of undoing the ego's false perceptions, let's zero in on its tricks. To help you become the witness of your financial fears, I've outlined several ways the ego uses money as a vehicle for keeping you in the dark. The ego blocks abundance in many ways, and if you want to clear those blocks, you first have to become conscious of them. Get honest with yourself and identify whether one or more of these ego tricks has blocked your financial freedom. The ego has a lack mentality. Particularly in tough economic times, the ego will rev up its game. It busts out thoughts like, I can't possibly get a raise in a recession, or I'll never have enough money, or I will never afford it. The ego has a million ways to fuel our lack mentality. The more we think in this way, the more we live in fear of not having enough. It's a dizzying circle. Remember that our thoughts inform our experiences, so know that a lack mentality mirrors a lacking bank account. The ego believes that passion has no purpose when it comes to making money. An ego mentality suggests that we must take practical action to make money. It convinces us that we can't have it both ways when it comes to earning. We can either do what we love, or we can make money. The ego reserves creativity and passion for hobbies, or it projects it onto a select few who get lucky enough to be financially successful with their passion work. I see this ego mentality come up with a lot of my artist friends who live in fear of never earning money from their art, and in effect blocking any chance of doing so. I also see it in my healer friends who believe that doing altruistic work means they'll never be well compensated. The inner dialogue of I can't make money doing what I love is a major ego block. I understand that this is a deep-rooted fear that affects many people, but as miracle workers we must begin to transcend this belief. When more and more people believe in abundance, more abundance will flow. We must take this very seriously and work together to create this shift. The ego has a get mentality rather than a give mentality. When we're ego-minded with money, we believe we need to get more to be happy. Our peace and salvation has a dollar amount. Giving can often become an afterthought when getting is the primary function. The Course teaches to have, give all to all. This concept is confusing to the ego, but throughout your miracle-minded practice, you'll gain real clarity around the true purpose of giving. The ego creates addictive patterns around money. I've witnessed many friends struggle with money addiction, gambling addiction, and debt addiction. In many ways, we can become powerless over money, which can affect every corner of our life. The belief that a certain amount of money will fix the problem is never the solution. A full-blown mental transformation is required to get out of the ego's addictive spiral. The ego emphasizes the external power of money. The power the ego gives to money is seriously damaging to us. Whenever we place power in something outside of ourselves, it's a sure sign we've aligned with the ego. If perceived wrongly, money can feel like our source of safety, security, happiness, and peace. In essence, money replaces love. When we give money this power, we're projecting one of the ego's false perceptions onto our world. thereby living in a constant state of needing more to feel complete. The goal of this week is to find that completeness in love and faith instead of money. The ego uses money to deepen your belief in separation. Money becomes a status symbol to the ego, which equates wealthy people as happy people and emphasizes the importance of external power. Because the ego thrives on separation, it uses money to further disconnect you from others. If you have money, the ego makes you more special, and if you don't, it makes you less special. The ego is uncreative when it comes to money. Ego convinces us to think in linear, limited ways, focusing on manipulative action to get more. But your ing is creative and will always lead you to innovative solutions. There have been many times in my life when I wasn't sure how I would pay the bills. My ego mind never had a good solution. In fact, my ego just made the problem worse. But when I turned inward to ask my ing for help, I was always guided to a miraculous solution. And finally, there's never enough for the ego. Even if you've achieved financial abundance, the ego acts in plenty of ways. One in particular is the never enough mentality. Even once the ego achieves a certain goal, it always needs more. From a spiritual perspective, when we recalibrate our faith, the universe will provide for us, but the ego thinks quite the opposite. We're pushed to strive for more and never believe we have enough. I'm confident that these ego projections resonate with you in multiple ways, and keep in mind they're just a few of the many ways the ego blocks your abundance. This week's work is dedicated to using subtle shifts to create powerful change in this area of your life. Looking at how the ego has created a fearful financial blueprint can be overwhelming. In the midst of trying to pay your bills and keep your career in motion, a spiritual practice may seem like too much work. Regardless of what you have going on in your career right now, trust that this is the perfect assignment for spiritual growth. And I've got super groovy news for you. For this week, you can take your energy off the to-do lists, the debt and the bills. For 1 week, make the commitment to put your practice first and treat it like a full-time job. Go about your routine, but in your mind, put this work first. Show up for the assignments with your full spirit and trust that when you awaken your internal abundance, your external abundance will be reflected. The Miracle Worker practice is your full-time job. You're hired. Now let's get to work. See you tomorrow.